I'm Beth.
And I'm Betty. And today we're going vegan. Yay! So today we will be making two pies.
A chicken pot pie and an apple pie.
And the best part is that it's all vegan. The first thing you have to do to make the pie crust is actually preheat your oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. So the first thing that you will measure out is the flour. We're going to need 3 cups of flour. And I'm just using all-purpose flour, but to make it even healthier, you can use whole wheat flour. So we're going to use 3 cups of this. And we're making a double pie crust, which means that we will need to have the pie crust for the bottom of the pie and for the topping. Then we're going to use 4 teaspoons of milk, and I decided to, 4 tablespoons. And I decided to use soy milk, so we're going to use that as our wet ingredient. We're also going to need 4 teaspoons of sugar, just to give it a little bit of sweetness. Start combining the ingredients in one bowl. You don't need more than one bowl. And we're going to need about the same amount of salt, so we need 4 of them. So just keep combining it until it starts to look like resembles pie crust. And what you want to do after this, since we could see that it's not wet yet, you need to put your vegetable oil. So I decided to use grapeseed oil. So we're going to use grapeseed oil, and we just need 1 cup of this, and you're going to slowly add it into the pie crust mixture so that you have a good consistency. So once it starts to look like this, as you can see, it looks a little like cookie dough, you would say. Just make sure you don't over mix it. Well, I'm going to put it in the fridge for 10 minutes now, and I'm going to let it harden.
What we're going to need is olive oil or grapeseed oil, whatever you have is fine. So 2 tablespoons.
So she's going to get 2 tablespoons of minced garlic. And then the next part you're going to do is put your onions. And what we did is we chopped one of these big onions and we used all of it.
So you're going to let your onions simmer a little bit until they brown. So just mix it.
So the other vegetables we'll be using today are some green beans, and the ones we got they're already pre-cut and washed, so we just had to chop them up. We're going to be using peas as well, and they're already ready to be cooked. We used some zucchini, and all we did was chopped it up as well. We used some russet potatoes, and we used 2 of these, and we chopped them up. And we're also going to be using some vegetable broth to make our sauce for our veggie pot pie.
So now that the onions have gathered a little bit more of color, you could pour your potatoes inside and just mix it. The potatoes are going to take the longest to cook, so you want to pour them in first. And once they've cooked for a while, you can put more vegetables in there. So first, she's going to separate it into 2 parts, one for the bottom and one for the top. And make sure to add some wax paper to wherever you're working, and spray that wax paper with cooking spray.
You're just going to make sure that it's round before you roll it, so make sure it's in a ball. And if you need to, you could just cover it in flour before you roll it. So you're just going to start slowly rolling back and forth. And you want to get a pie crust that's as big as the pie pan you're going to be using. So you want to make it as thin as you possibly can, but you don't want to do it fast. You want to do it slowly, so roll it out slowly. And just start by rolling it in the middle, front and back, and then you could do the same on the sides until it spreads out. And as you keep rolling it, you want to keep adding flour as much as you need it. So I'm going to add a little bit more.
Yeah. Almost cooked. You want to add some carrots and squash. Just mix it.
Next, you will want to add the green beans because those will also take longer to cook. So have your peas ready. Just slide them in there.
Just mix everything. Mixing.
And then our last part of this is adding the vegetable broth. So you're gonna add 3 cups. I'm gonna let that until it starts to simmer, and the last part will be to add flour to thicken the liquid a little bit so that it looks like more saucy. So once your pie crust, you've rolled it out this big, because we're gonna be using a pan like this, you could spray the pan, and then you could actually put the pie crust in your pan. Just make sure that it's evenly spread out. As you can see, we're doing here, we're just spreading it out. And if you need a little more pie crust at the edges, just put some more so that when you put in your vegetables, it's evenly coated. So once your vegetables have been cooked and they're simmering like this, you're going to want to add your spices, which is where you put pepper. So just eyeball how much pepper you want in it. And some salt. You're going to want to put a little bit of flour to thicken up the actual liquid in your vegetable mix. So I'd say go with a little bit like a teaspoon of flour, but if you need more, I'd say yeah, put a little bit more. And now just let it cook a little bit more. And the last thing that we will add to it is actual chicken. And since we're not using real chicken, we'll be using some chicken crispy tenders. And what we did here is that we didn't cook them. We just thawed them out so they're ready to be baked. So we cut them up, and now we could add them into our vegetables. So we use the whole package of this chicken, and we'll just be adding that into our vegetables. And this is a very good alternative to real chicken. It actually has, for only 3 of these nuggets, it has 12 grams of protein. So once your vegetables and chicken look like this, like a thick mixture, you're going to want to turn it off. And you're going to want to let it cool for like 5 minutes before you put it into your pie pan. So you might not need to use all of it, but just make sure that it's spread out evenly, and you do want to fill it. So once your pie is filled up with this much vegetables, you're going to make sure it's filled up, and you're going to want to put the crust on top of it. Now make sure when you're putting your pie crust over that you put it evenly around.
And cut any extra edges
and
on the side.
And just spread around the edges so that it's all covered, and so that your pie doesn't overflow. Because it will rise a little bit, but not too much. And then you're going to want to poke a hole in the middle with a fork or knife, so that it has a little air. You know how you see 1 hole, 2, 3. There you go. Maybe another one. We'll add another one because this is one big pie. And as you can see, now your pie is ready to go in the oven. And we're going to bake it for about an hour.
So now we're making the apple pie.
And
here we have some apples.
And we use a mixture of our different favorite apples, such as Granny Smith, Pink Lady, and Gala apples. And the crust we're making here is the same as the one we made for the pot pie crust, except that we added more sugar and we added cinnamon because this is a sweet crust, so we want to make sure that. So like we did before, we followed everything else, and now we're just rolling out our dough.
We're going to mix 1 teaspoon of cinnamon and 1 teaspoon of salt.
And half a cup of sugar, and in this case, we want to use brown sugar.
This is going to go into our apple pie. So once you've mixed your sugar and cinnamon and salt together, you're going to add the apples to it and just mix it. And this is what's going to go inside the pie. And when the apples are cooking, the juice will extract from them, and that's what's going to make the pie moist. So once your pie is ready and your crust is ready, you want to take it out of the oven, and we're going to start putting the apples in here. And this is what the apples are going to look like after you mix the everything.
As you can see, the natural juices of the apples have started to come out, and that's going to be the yummy part of the apple and apple pie.
You just want to pour it inside.
And fill it up full of apples. Just fill it up. Yeah, make sure to stuff it all in so that this crust can cover it all.
And you just want to...
Now you just want to pat it around.
Yeah.
Make it even. Make sure that everything's coated nicely. And in this case, we'll put 4 again because it's so full of apples. No more like 5. And now we can put our pie.
We're going to stick this back in the oven.
And this is going to go into the oven for like 30 minutes.
At 400 degrees.
Now while we wait for our apple pie to be ready, we can now taste our chicken pot pie. Do you see how wonderful that looks? Look at that crust. It's just flaky and wonderful.
You can just start cutting it
and just serve yourself a hearty piece, you know, because it's healthy and full of veggies and chicken. So now you be careful because it's going to be flaky and it's also hot. Just look at that wonderful pie. Now we can taste our pie.
So now that our apple pie is ready, we get to eat it. So you want to cut it.
And do you see how big it got? Because we put a lot of apples and the crust is thick enough. And do you see that? Look at how nice that is. Just take a taste of that. Do you see how yummy those apples are?
It's really good.